Did you know that Dracula once impaled an entire army and Elizabeth Bathory was accused of bathing in blood to preserve her youth? Two of history's most chilling figures may have inspired the vampire legends we know today. Their names are forever intertwined with blood, terror, and mystery, but their true stories are even more shocking than fiction. From the brutal reign of Vlad the Impaler to the sinister rituals of the Blood Countess, these figures remind us that sometimes, reality is darker than myth. The terrifying legacy of Vlad Dracula. Let's begin with Vlad III, better known as Vlad Tepes, or Vlad the Impaler. Born in 1431 in Transylvania, Vlad was the ruler of Wallachia, a region in modern-day Romania. His nickname, Dracula, derives from his father, Vlad Dracul, who belonged to the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order dedicated to defending Christianity against the Ottoman Empire. But Vlad's legacy has little to do with noble chivalry. Instead, it's steeped in fear and gore. Vlad earned his infamous title through his preferred method of punishment, impalement. This gruesome execution involved driving a wooden stake through the victim's body, often leaving them alive for hours or even days as they slowly succumbed to their injuries. According to historical accounts, Vlad once impaled 20,000 Ottoman soldiers and arranged their bodies in a forest of the dead outside his capital to deter invaders. The sight reportedly struck such terror into the enemy that they retreated without a fight. But here's a lesser-known detail: Vlad didn't reserve his cruelty solely for his enemies. His subjects were often victims of his brutal justice. A story tells of a golden cup placed in the town square of Targovite, which anyone could use to drink water. Despite its value, the cup was never stolen, not because of moral virtue, but because the penalty for theft was death by impalement. This rigid sense of law and order earned Vlad a reputation as both a tyrant and a protector of his people. So how did Vlad Dracula become synonymous with vampirism? Much of it can be attributed to Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula. Stoker borrowed Vlad's name and Transylvanian backdrop but took creative liberties with the rest. However, the bloodthirsty nature of Vlad's reign, and whispers of his drinking blood from his victims, gave the fictional Dracula a chilling historical foundation. Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess. If Vlad Dracula represents power enforced through terror, Elizabeth Bathory embodies the darker side of wealth and privilege. Born in 1560 into one of Hungary's most influential noble families, Bathery lived a life of opulence. But beneath the polished veneer of aristocracy lay a woman whose crimes would earn her the nickname, the Blood Countess. Elizabeth is best known for her alleged obsession with blood. According to legends, she believed that bathing in the blood of young women would preserve her youth and beauty. Over 600 girls were said to have fallen victim to her cruelty, lured to her castle with promises of work or education. Once inside, they faced unspeakable horrors. Reports described victims being burned, mutilated, and even drained of blood. But did she really bathe in blood? Modern historians debate whether these stories are fact or fiction. Some suggest that Elizabeth's crimes were exaggerated or fabricated entirely by political rivals eager to seize her wealth and lands. Regardless, the sheer volume of testimony from her trial paints a picture of a woman capable of extraordinary cruelty. Here's a chilling fact: Elizabeth's high status shielded her from execution. Instead, she was sentenced to life imprisonment in her own castle, where she was confined to a small, windowless room. She spent 4 years there before her death in 1614, her legacy cemented as one of history's most infamous female killers. The vampire connection. The parallels between these two historical figures and vampire mythology are hard to ignore. Both are associated with blood, Vlad through his violent reign and Elizabeth through her supposed beauty rituals. Both lived in regions steeped in superstition, where tales of the undead were part of the cultural fabric. And both have become larger-than-life figures, their deeds distorted and amplified over centuries. For Vlad, the connection to vampirism likely stems from his reputation for drinking the blood of his enemies. Though this may be more symbolic than literal, it's easy to see how such stories could evolve into vampire lore. Similarly, Elizabeth's alleged blood baths align with the idea of vampires sustaining themselves through the blood of others. Disturbing details and lesser-known facts. Vlad's prison years. Few know that Vlad spent years as a prisoner of the Ottoman Empire during his youth. This time shaped his worldview and may have fueled his hatred for the Ottomans. It's said he learned their methods of psychological warfare, including impalement, during his captivity. Bathery's journals. Some accounts claim that Elizabeth kept meticulous records of her victims, listing their names and ages. If true, this suggests a chilling level of premeditation and detachment from her crimes. Supernatural beliefs. In Vlad's time, many believed in strigo, Romanian vampires. These undead beings were said to rise from the grave to feast on the living. Vlad's brutal methods and eerie reputation likely fed into these local legends, cementing his place as a prototype for Dracula. Elizabeth's servants. Bathery didn't act alone. Several of her servants were implicated in her crimes, helping her capture and torture victims. They were executed during her trial, but Bathery's noble status spared her a similar fate. Mysterious deaths. The circumstances surrounding Elizabeth's death are murky. Officially, she died of natural causes, but some speculate she may have been poisoned by her captors, who feared she could still wield influence. Legacy and lessons. The stories of Vlad Dracula and Elizabeth Bathory endure because they tap into primal fears, the abuse of power, the thin line between humanity and monstrosity, and the darkness that can reside in the human soul. Their lives remind us that history is often stranger and more terrifying than fiction. But these tales also challenge us to separate fact from legend. Were Vlad and Elizabeth true monsters, or were they shaped into symbols of terror by those who feared or envied them? The truth, as always, lies somewhere in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. So the next time you hear the word vampire, think beyond the fangs and flowing capes. Remember Vlad the Impaler, a warlord who turned fear into his most powerful weapon, and Elizabeth Bathory, a noble woman whose thirst for youth became her undoing. Their stories may be centuries old, but their chilling legacies remain immortal. What do you think? Were these historical figures misunderstood, or do they deserve their fearsome reputations? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most intriguing tales. Until next time.